In 2020, Resident Evil 3 Remake released. This was actually the first Resident Evil game I've ever played, and I enjoyed my time with the game a lot. But ever since the game came out, people have been throwing criticism at the game that doesn't make any sense once you think about them, so I'm going to break them down and debunk them. The first criticism of this game is that Nemesis is underwhelming. Most people bring up two arguments for this. The first one is that Nemesis feels very scripted. First of all, every stalker enemy is very scripted. They always appear where they need to, when they need to. Some are just better at hiding it. For example, the girl in Resident Evil Requiem is very scripted. You will especially notice this when you've played the game multiple times. But everyone still praises her. So you can already see people are picking and choosing when to say this as a negative. The second argument people bring up is that Nemesis isn't in the game much and or isn't much of a threat. So let's go over the game and see if that's the case, you know? The game opens with Nemesis attacking Jill in her apartment and forcing her into the zombie apocalypse. Then Nemesis shows up, destroys Jill's escape, attacks her, tanks a fall while being hit by a car, surviving said car explosion, using one of its tentacles to catch a rocket, and finally survives a point-blank hit with another rocket. Then, after a while, Nemesis shows up again, chases Jill, and turns the zombies around him into more powerful zombies. He then chases Jill some more, forcing her into the sewers. After escaping the sewers, Nemesis shows up again, this time with a flamethrower. He sets a building on fire before having a boss fight with Jill. Jill blows the flamethrower up, but Nemesis survives the explosion. A little bit later, Nemesis shows up again, this time with a rocket launcher. Jill runs back to Carlos while Nemesis is still pursuing her. Nemesis survives another explosion, gunshots from an assault rifle, and an exploding fuel truck. This causes Nemesis to transform into his second form, where he has another boss fight against Jill. After a long battle and surviving a lot of explosions from a grenade launcher, he manages to infect Jill with the T-virus. After that, Nemesis takes a well-deserved break. After a while, Nemesis returns and kills Tyrell Patrick. He attacks Jill multiple times before Nikolai forces Jill to have another boss fight with Nemesis. After that, Nemesis transforms into his final form for the final boss fight of the game. Jill literally uses a railgun and shoots it 3 times in order to finally take Nemesis out. And oh yeah, the game ends about 5 minutes after this. So Nemesis is pretty much in almost every section of the game where Jill is the playable character. So this criticism doesn't work once you actually think about it. The next point I want to go over is the argument of the game having cut content. First of all, I'm not gonna deny this. Every game has cut content, this game included. But where people are getting it wrong is that everything that was cut from the original game is also cut content for this game. This is simply not the case. These two games are not the same. They are different. They have the same skeleton, sure, but at the end of the day, they are different games. Most areas that people say are cut are still in the game. They are just remade into something new. For example, instead of Jill going back to the RPD, it's Carlos who goes to the RPD. Same area, but remade into something new. Another thing I'd like to point out is that this hate movement has not been seen for the other modern remakes. Strange, huh? Let me say this loudly for the people in the back. Every Resident Evil game is short. If we look at the original Resident Evil 3, that game can be completed in just 40 minutes. 40 minutes. If we switch over to look at the remake, that game is listed as being 46 minutes. A bit longer than the original. And to drive this point further, the latest game, Requiem, is listed as being just under 1.5 hours. Resident Evil 4 Remake is listed around the same length, and both campaigns in Resident Evil 2 Remake are around 50 minutes. This is why the runtime argument has always been stupid for Resident Evil games. The value has never been hour per dollar. Its value lays in its replayability, as you can replay these games in so many different ways, like with a new outfit, or a new weapon, or infinite ammo, or with only a knife, or a different difficulty, or with no heals, etc. Resident Evil isn't like the other games where after the second or third playthrough, you've pretty much done everything the game has to offer. You can play these games indefinitely and every time could be slightly different than the last. And before people are gonna twist this argument and say this game is linear and therefore it's bad, let's not forget that didn't stop both RE4 games to be considered some of the best games ever made. I'll see you next time.